So, as we get going, we want to talk about autism, what exactly autism is. And, we just talked about people, and autism is a label, and labels can be one of those really shaky things to give someone a label. Only it makes it very one dimensional. But autism isn't full of labels anymore. Autism is a spectrum, and you can fall anywhere on the spectrum, from very high functioning to very low functioning. And to be on the spectrum, I heard someone say, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. It Their brains are all wired differently, and we use autism or autism spectrum disorder to refer to an entire range of conditions, and they come along with challenges like social skills, behaviors, speech and nonverbal communications, but a lot of the times those differences are also strengths. We just aren't really taught to see it because it doesn't fit inside our defined norm. So we have all these different combinations of genetic and environmental influences that we believe causes autism. It's not just one thing. And the spectrum itself is also of the variation of strengths and weaknesses that each student has with autism. So I know Maria is going to talk specifics, but autism, those signs tend to appear between ages 2 and 3, and sometimes as early as 18 months. There are some delays that a lot of parents will pick up on, and then they may start asking their pediatricians questions. And then, if somebody notices it quick enough, they can get intervention even quicker, because intervention does help improve delays. And I know that's something we're going to talk a little bit more about later. So one of the things when you're thinking about autism, you have to keep in mind that you're dealing with students or children with different kinds of minds. So you have to have the same kinds of expectations. Not the same kinds. You still need to have high expectations. And this is where that intervention piece comes in. If you can get in there early and not just teach the student, but the family, and then everybody's on board with this idea that there's this moment where a newly diagnosed autistic child can have on their team these people who are going to push them forward and have high expectations. And these students are going to have an opportunity to not so much fill in what they don't know, but to use their considerable strengths to get as far as they can. And sometimes what makes them autistic makes them amazing at their jobs. So it's important to think about that as teachers, as educators, what it's like to educate somebody who's autistic. That doesn't mean that they can't do it. It might mean that they have a completely different way of doing it, and that's acceptable. So you have to be very specialized if you're going to deal with specialized brains, and very open-minded. So when we talk about what is autism, and you have to keep in mind there's not just one type. And Maria is going to talk about the progression in the field and in research, on how we came from labels to this idea of a spectrum.